कबीर काम परे हर सिमरिया ऐसा सिमरो नित काम परे हर सिमरिया ऐसा सिमरो नित हमारा पुरबासा करो हर गया बहोरे चित कबीर सेवा को तो भले एक संत एक राम सेवा को तो भले एक संत एक राम जो दाता मुक्ति को संत जपावे ना संत जपावे ना धोनी होए चित भरे सतगुर बंदे थे कबीर जी मार्ग पंडित गए जे मार्ग पंडित गए पाछे परी बहिरे एक अवघट घाटी राम की अवघट घाटी राम की ते चढ़ रहो कबीर ते चढ़ रहो कबीर दुनिया को धोखे दुनिया के धोखे चालत कुल की कान तब कुल किसका लाज सी जब ले धरे मसान तब कुल किसका लाज से जब ले धरे मसान कबीर डूबे गोरे बापुरे बहु लोगन की कान डूबे गोरे बापुरे बहु लोगन की कान पड़ोसी के जो तू अपने में सतगुर बंदे थे कबीर भली मधुकरी नाना विद को नाद कबीर भली मधुकरी नाना विद को नाद दावा कहूँ को नहीं दावा कहूँ को नहीं बड़ा देश बड़ राज होने पाए चित नहीं सतगुर बंदे थे कबीर दावे दाचन होत है निर्दावे रहे न संग जो जन निर्दावे रहे सो बने इंदर सुरंग कबीर पा सरोवर भरा, पी न सके कोई नीर, भाग बढ़े ते पायो, भाग बढ़े ते पायो, तुम भर भर पियो कबीर, तुझी कोई हित भय सतगुर बंदी धीर, तुझी कोई। The concept of enlightenment or Buddhahood or Nirvana actually is a freedom from the self. It is not freedom from somebody else. It is a freedom from the self. That which is constantly making us run around from one direction to the other direction and not settling down, not even when you are sleeping, the body is resting, but that mind, that monkey keeps on running. It doesn't stop. Whole effort of the meditation, the whole effort of all of the devices that are given to us, the whole purpose of that is how to quiet this mind, how to bring it down to silence. But why? Why not let it run as it's running? Just very recently, a very successful young man who has a very budding practice in law asked me that question, saying, "Tell me what's wrong with me." And I said, "Why you ask this question?" He says, "Look, I have excellent practice, good money, big house, beautiful wife, 3 children, healthy wife, healthy myself. Everything is wonderful. And every week I go to the temple and I do my diligence and I come home. Now tell me what's wrong with this model. Everybody keeps on talking that you should be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that, and I go to the temple and I listen to these preachers and everybody is telling me to do something other than what I'm doing. What's wrong with what I'm doing? What's wrong with living the way I'm living?" A tough question to answer to a successful, so-called successful life. How do you tell someone that there is a bliss that's yonder, bliss that's beyond the bliss that you are feeling now, the temporary nature of the life? So I basically told him, I said, "You're doing nothing wrong. And if anybody who's telling you to do something different, just don't pay any attention. Continue." So now he's an attorney, he's by law, so he is logical, he's argumentative. The logic in the world of spiritualism actually is not anything better than a whore. It serves the master. With the logic you can prove anything that's outside, and you will fail miserably if you're trying to prove anything that's inside. Logic will not come handy. The reality is that a saint can be defeated by a logician very easily. A mystic will only say, "Fine, continue." A meditator should never attempt to be logical about this, because there is nothing you can show. It's all intrinsic. It all has to do something inside. It all has to do something that is non-matter. It's non-logical. It's not illogical. It's non-logical. The life is not based on the principle of justice or equality. We hear this comment all the time. It's not fair. What do you mean by why you can do that and why can't you do that too? It's not fair to me. And the life isn't based on the law of fairness. It's not based on the law of justice. It's based on the law of balance. There is a beautiful parable that a house was being built brick by brick by brick. And the brick, when it went to the top, started talking to the bricks which are at the bottom and said, look at me. You are nothing. You are under my feet. I am the one who's at the height. And the brick at the bottom said, that may be so, but you cannot exist at that height if I'm not there at the bottom. So who's greater? The one who's doing the sporting or the one who's doing the riding? The logic. It doesn't matter which way you go. You can take a logic and turn it around. And then the world of mysticism, logic is absolutely meaningless. So when somebody asks you the question, the one who's at peace right now is enjoying the luxuries of life and constantly in that the enjoyment of the chase. Today I have this house, I have one practice, my office is in this particular area, and then in another 5 years I will be there, and then I will have a partnership and I'll expand and the day and night are dreams. And the children are growing and they're going to the private schools and the colleges, and all of that put together, the young mind says, what's wrong with running around? Why are you telling me that the mind should be quiet and should not be chasing? And the answer to that particular mind is, you don't need to do anything different. Just continue. Only when you are ready, when you will ask this question yourself, is there a life beyond this? Is there all to it? Am I a victim of, am I just a collection of few billion cells that came together, formed the body, and then the body started aging, and then the body dies, and the end of discussion? Is that there to it? Till that question does not arise from within, you cannot communicate this. And when you get that question, and then you start seeking, and you go to a master, and the master will tell you that there is the freedom, or the enlightenment, or Buddhahood, or the blissfulness, or Satchitananda, is nothing more than getting rid of that monkey that's inside you. Nobody's causing your discomfort. You are causing your own discomfort. Can you accept that responsibility? Can you turn within? Can you stop saying, you did it, he did it, she did it? Can you stop saying that? Can you start saying, I did it? Can you get to a stage where I am responsible? If you are still a victim and you're feeling sorry for yourself, then it is an escapism. Then you have not started. The mind will not quiet. Mind will still be focused on somebody else. So long as the mind is focused on the other, it will not quiet. It will not be at peace. If you say no, I know for a fact that someone else is responsible for where I am, what I am going through. So long as that mind exists which says, I am not responsible, someone else is, Master can do nothing. And that's what Kabir is starting with today. He starts the statement because in last sitting we talked about, he said, look at the surprising thing, that something that is so valuable that you cannot put a price on it is being literally auctioned off at a dime a dozen. But the people who really know the value of this, I was reading the history of the diamond Kohinoor, and I was surprised to see that the person who actually found it in his own form, when he was actually doing the forming early in the morning, found a shining stone and literally took it back to his home for children to play. For 3 years it stayed in his backyard. Sometimes the children will play with it, sometimes will throw it up. The entire village had no clue, including that person, that this is something so valuable. And it so happened that actually a mystic was visiting in that town and happened to ask him, do you know what this is? He said, no, this has been here in my family for the last 3 years. Would you throw it out, and when the children get up in the morning, they play with it. And the mystic told him. And the beauty of this is that night when he found out, he says he couldn't sleep. Now he's worried that somebody may not come and take it. And he doesn't want to show his anxiety. But as soon as the saint left, in the dark, he took the little lamp, kerosene oil lamp, and went to the backyard to pick it up. It was so scary. And it did not, later on he's saying to himself that I felt so stupid that for 3 years it was staying in the backyard. It didn't bother him whether somebody take it or not take it. And the fact now he knows it, that there is some money associated with it, all night he couldn't sleep. So in the morning he ran to the Nawab of Hyderabad and took that to him. And actually what we see today, that's the Victoria crown, that's where that is now. Actually it is the 1/3 the size of that original diamond. It was amazing to me when I read that and said, my God, isn't that what exactly is happening to us? We just don't know what we got. And when we find out, and when do we find out that what we have lost it? It is the experience of every soul. It's documented for the history of mankind that when the human body is at the last breath, any soul which has evolved slightly to the level realizes what a waste life it was. At that exact moment it realizes, oh my God, what happened? This was not the purpose of the life. Why didn't I know it? And then you cannot recover it back. And Kabir said that to us last week, and he starts with this thing now. He says, Kabir, thuni pai thit bhai satkur bandi thi. He says that the whole effort is to get rid of the noise level from within, to quiet the mind down, to stabilize this whole system so that it is not running. But he could not do it by himself, because if he could do it, if this is something that you can do by your own doing, then everybody would be able to do it. So he's basically cutting the base of any ego that can come, that I did it, that I could have, I did this sadhana, I did this meditation, I did this particular process, and with that I have reached this stage. He says no. It is not possible to get to that stage with one's self. One's self can only be ready, can only be willing, can only be surrendering, but the grace comes from somewhere else. And that grace, thuni pai thit bhai. Thun is a typical word that is used in Banaras. Kabir uses that quite often. It is a thun means a pillar. Thami. Thuni pai thit bhai. Thit means it becomes centered, stabilized. Satgur bandi dheer. Now the word Satgur in Gurvani is not used for a human body. It's not used in the physical sense at all. You will find that this word is very abused in the mystical literature. Almost everybody becomes a Gaur Satgur. And it's a very subtle and it's a message from another dimension, so I'll attempt to share my thoughts about this. The ultimate creative energy, the force, is so enormous that the mind-body system, if it was to be given even a fraction of its sample, body will not be able to tolerate, will not be able to stand it, cannot contain it. And the creative energy, in order to communicate and bring that message to the mind-body system, adopts itself, it dilutes itself, as if the general has just worn the body of a little lieutenant colonel. Is trying to come to you to deliver messages so that you can listen, that you can tolerate, that you can take that inside. Satgur is that form of that ultimate creative energy that actually becomes the media, stepping stone to that ultimate thing. It's different than Gur. Guru term is used for the physical body, which has now dropped all the ego barriers. The mind has dropped, the ego has dropped, and has realized that energy within. Satgur is that mediator to get to that state. And then the ultimate energy is not given any particular name. Actually, none of the religion has given any name. Even Christianity, when Jesus said the Father, the Son, and then he left the word Holy Spirit. What he's saying, the Creator, the Father, the creation, the Son. But where is the relationship between the two? What is the connection between the two? Say the Spirit. Now the Spirit is of a non-physical nature. So it's a higher energy level, and Kabir ji is trying to refer to that higher energy level. Guru Nanak refers to that. If you remember the Asadi Vak, here he says, Bin Satgur Kine na payo, Bin Satgur Kine na paya. Now this is Pauri by Guru Nanak, right? Now Guru Nanak cannot call himself Satgur, right? That would be very egoistic. So, but he's saying something, he's pointing out to somebody. Bin Satgur Kine na payo, Bin Satgur Kine na paya, Satgur Viche aap rakhen, kar pargat aap sunaya. He says, that's, how do you communicate? The Satgur, that energy, which is non-physical in nature, how can he communicate then? He says, well, there's only one way. Kar pargat. If pargat hundi hai, it comes out how? Through the word, through the sound, through that communication. And Kabir ji is referring to that Satgur. He says, I got to that state where the mind dropped and the stabilization took place in me. Who did that? He says, with the grace of that Satgur, that ultimate energy. I said, well, why did that happen? Why it happened to Kabir? And he refers to that earlier shloka. I say, Kabir Hira ban gaya. Earlier he said कबीर अचंभो देखियो, हीरा हाट बिकाए, बंजन हारे बाहरा कौड़ी बदले जाए. He says, I am watching this, that this thing is being wasted. Everybody is selling the name of God. Every organized religion in the world, no exception to the rule, is not being partial to anybody. And you can take any example. It will hurt our ego if we say, well, my guru actually is not that way, my master is not that way, my teacher is not that way, my religion is not that way. The reality is, all organized religions are that way. There is no exception. They are selling the name of God. But something that is so invaluable, how can you put a value on that? And he says, he understood that secret. And he became the true dealer of that business. He understands the price, the value. Once he understood that, so what did he do? He says, I surrendered everything, because there is no way to pay the value, price for this. So he says, Kabir हीरा बन गया, मान सरोवर तीर. तीर में कंडा, सरोवर दुनिया, the world. He says, in this world, the ocean of this world, he's sitting around, and in there he is doing one thing. And what is this thing name? Because he understood the value, and with the grace of that Creator, he got that blissful state. He says, this is the only way. Kabir har hira jan jahori leke mande hat. He says, that's the only way. Which is that diamond he's talking about? He says, that is that meditation name. But there are very few people who will be in that business. Jan Jahori. Beautiful word. He says only Jan. Now in Gurbani, Jag mein uttam kaadiya virle geyi te. If you go around the world and look for a Jan, the one who is truly in that path, he says you will find probably 1 in a billion. Not too many of them. But he says those who have that, what they do, leke mande hat. Mande means to decorate. Heart, hati, the life, the body. He says the one who understands the value of this, then the name, the meditative name of the Lord is the only decoration for the entire mind body system. Has no other desire, has no other things to do. If you look at today's saints, you find their dressing and their makeups are so complicated and so elaborate. And not only that, I mean, in almost every organized religion, depending upon your hierarchy where you are, your dress changes. I remember I was in New York a few years back, and they were starting the new organization, new Gurudwara, new temple, and they used to listen to me and they said, well, we are not going to call ourselves presidents and secretaries, and so okay, so what are you going to call yourself? So we're going to call Sevada, the servant. Now watch how the mind works. And the other one said, well, if everybody is Sevadar, how would we, when we go, the court people come and somebody has to write a sign on the marriage certificates, etc., to take it to the court. So how would we tell that this is the one? So well, we'll say he is a chief sevadar and he's a junior sevadar. Look how the mind works. Immediately, and I started laughing, just as you laugh, and I had just gone bananas. He said, this guy has gone bonkers. What happened to you? No. Just call yourself president and secretary. You are better off. At least everybody understands the president and a secretary and a treasurer. Don't play these games. Because you cannot transcend that. You cannot go beyond that. You don't know how to go beyond that. A sevadar, a servant, would not want to be known by any other name. As soon as you have put in an identifier, the whole game starts the same. Only the toy changed, the game remained the same. So he says, those who are on that path, they do not decorate their life with anything else. That's the only decoration. And as we go along today, you'll find that he says, well, those who do that is not a simple thing. It's not an easy thing. He will go to the difficulties of this. जब ही पाये पारखू तब हिरन की साख. Hiran ki saak. Hiran, plural. He says, whenever you find somebody who's also at least desirous of the same level, then what you do? Hiran ki saak. Sata vatandra karna. To exchange the thoughts. To share the energy. Now this is a beautiful thing to ponder. As a scientist, as a businessman, as anything else in the world, if you get a secret, you really want to keep that as a secret, right? That's my business secret. I don't want to give it away. Right? A scientist will not give the formula away. Everything in the world, if it is of any value to the world, they want to keep the secret. The Coca-Cola's formula is the highest kept secret in the last 100 years of the Industrial Revolution. Nobody knows that. And they've done business all over the world. And they always mix the solution and ship the solution, never the formula. That's the whole, we all know that. But the spiritual scientist, when he finds or she finds a secret, they want to share it right away. Give it away. As the secret, more the secret, actually its secret is so pregnant that you have to deliver it. You cannot keep it. It is impossible to keep that secret hidden. And Kabir says, जब ही पाये पारखू तब हिरन की साख. Compare our rival. As soon as you find somebody who may not have parkhus, watch the word. He himself was calling that a Johari. Johari is the one who does the business in it. He says the saints are the one who are actually the true traders of that business, which is the name, the meditation. But there are others who may not be, but at least they recognize the value. Parkhu. Parkhu is the one who at least appreciates, and just like, you go to listen to a good classical music, a good ghazal nawaz or a good instrumental music, you cannot play the instrument yourself, you cannot produce the same effect, but you appreciate what the other is doing. Right? But there are others also, those who say, what this nonsense, cut it out, let's do something else, let's play cards. For them, classical music is boring. So he is using the word parku. He says saints, when they are on the path, and as they are getting closer, not only that they share it with those who are actually on the path, but they also share with those who are just appreciative of it. They give it away. They don't hold it back. जब ही पाइए पार को, तब हिरन की सार. Give it away. Share it. Spread it out. Totally contradictory to the laws which the outer world follows. You have a little thing, go write a patent and then hide it away. Whereas here, when you discover something, declare it. कबीर काम परे हर सिमरिए ऐसा सिमरो ने. And this is what happens every day. He says what is happening in the world is that we think of some higher energy, somebody higher than us, bigger than us, more mysterious than us, only when we are in trouble. Not otherwise. This is why. Why not always be in that frame of mind? Why not always be in that thoughtfulness? Why not always be there? Kam pare har simriya. So you only go in that direction, you only think of him. Simrana means to remember. You only remember, you only think of that when you are in some sort of a crisis. Kam pare. When you need it. Even if it is not a crisis, you just have more desires. Make the 2 to 4, 4 to 5, 8 to 16. Make this bigger, this better, this larger. When you have that desire, when you have that need, only then you think of it. Just as that young man has asked the question, I'm doing just fine. Why don't you just leave me alone? I'm doing my job, raising my family, making my mortgage payments. I'm doing okay. Leave me alone. And suddenly, if that child needs to be taken to the doctor for some crisis, now he will say, why me? What have I done? Can you not take this pain away? Then that question will come. But not earlier than that. He says that is not the right thing to do. What you want to do, he says, Kabir, काम परे हर सिमरिए ऐसा सिमरो नित. Nit means not daily. That's what he's saying. Nita prati. Nit is associated with our own existence. We are in existence only as we breathe. Simro nit, with every breath. इन्हीं के सवेरे उठ के याद कर ले काफी हो गया. Now what he's saying? Get up in the morning or go in the evening and that's enough. See, simro nit. And he will actually give away the secret as to why he is suggesting that in one of the shlokas. He talks about that. He says, Amrapur basa karo har gaya bahaure bit. Gaya means something that you have lost. Bahaure means to bring it back. He says, if you do that, the mind that has gone away in the chase of the worldly things will turn around. You'll be able to bring it back. You will bring it back. Because the mind needs to come back rather than getting scattered, getting away all the time. You need to continuously keep on remembering so that it gets back. But the mind is a strange collection of events and thoughts that those of you who have ever looked at the pan वाली की दुकान पे जाके पान बनाता देखे? Most of you, the people eat pan. to make that. Now, now think about it. If you take that betel leaf separately and its ingredients separately, that chemical, calcium, tattaja, if you eat separately, actually it will cut your lips. It's bitter. None of those things will give the same thing. But you now put all those things together in the form of that pan. That redness of the lips does not exist otherwise. It only exists in that combination. And the mind will tell you that this is nothing. What you are calling, an atheist will actually convince you that what you are calling life or soul is nothing but that illusion, like a pan, is redness. All the ingredients put together, panch tat tan sajeo, jano chatur sujan, those 5 elements came together, and that's what you are calling a mind or a soul. There's nothing otherwise. Otherwise, show me. Just as you cannot show the redness in the beetle or redness in the chemicals and everything, separately they don't have anything. When put together they create an effect. Similarly is this effect. Kabir says, no, hold it. It is true that it cannot be proven in the physical world. It's true that in the material world it cannot be said. But if you at least keep that thought with you all the time, the mind will drop these things. It has gone out on a crazy argument. It will come back. Gaya bahaure it. It will come back. But it will come back only if you follow that regimen. If you only go into the memory and remembrance once in a while, early in the morning or late in the evening or once a week, on a Sunday or a Friday or whatever, depending upon the religious practice that you follow, he says that's not going to help, and that's why the people normally say, oh, this is all nonsense. Kabir is saying it's not all nonsense, you are not following the right method. What are you doing? You only remember when you need it, not otherwise. Change it. He says then, how do you get the seeker? Where do you get the seeker from? Next shloka he gives it. How did he find out? He says, Kabir, seva ko doye bhale ek sant ek ram. Now, the so-called saints and preachers of today have used this and abused this shloka so much. Kabir says, seva karni chahiye sant of Yusuf. Everybody becomes a son. I was surprised. I met a very young man about a year or so ago here in Bonaparte, and everybody was calling him Santaji. So I actually asked him, I said, I would like to know, why did the people call you son? Now, I want to know as to what is that saintliness and where is it? And in his novel, he already know, I don't want to be, and these people keep on calling me, and because my father had something this, and my granddad had something that, and it's coming along, and now I am also something. We have taken these words and turn them, particularly Indian mind, when I sit back and look at it, we are so clever in picking up the best possible words. Choice of words is tremendous. Harijan. Right? Can you imagine? The most disrespected human otherwise, we start calling them Harijan. Kabir says, Har Harijan doye ek hai, bimb bichar kichna hai. The one who has become Harijan, he says that, what's the activity of Harijan? Okay, those, once they have become one, only then they can be called Harijan. And Mahatma Gandhi did a favor to the whole world. He said, don't call them Shudra. Manu called them Shudra, I call them Harijan. The choice of words. And it basically glosses over everything that we do, because the words are such. And Kabir says, no. Here is the definition. He says the one, who he calls Sun, he defines the Sun. Who he calls Ram, the God, he defines the God. He says, कबीर सेवा को दोए भले एक संत एक राम, राम जो दाता मुक्त को संत जपावे ना. Define both of them. He says that the God is the one who can give you the grace to free you from the cycle of life and death. And the Sant is the one who will put you on that path. That's it. They both are doing the same business. They are partners. One is in that blessing, the other one is putting you on the path, to get the qualification, to get worthy of the grace. How is that? Is Japave Naam, which is it that मैं भी पढ़ती करें. We are in, somebody put an advertisement in a newspaper and said, immediate opening, very profitable business, 50-50 partnership, no experience required. That's what it's saying. And no investment. Needed partners. Now, is there a business like that? No investment and partner and 50-50? So somebody applied, he wanted to see it, said, okay, come for the interview. So what's the word? They said, look, there's only one investment needed, and what's that? Say, we only need a bowl. She gave him the bowl. He says, I have already invested in that. That's yours now. So what I'm supposed to do is say, go back. So bring it back. We do 50-50. You take 50, I take 50. No investment, no experience required. Very profitable. And you don't need any investment, no experience. Fulfilled all the requirements. You just go back, bring the food, and then we share 50-50. That's the kind of organized religion world that we have gotten into. That's not saint. He says, that saint will say, come sit down with me. Follow on the same path. He puts you on the path of what? Sant Japave Naam. Don't follow me, follow him. But that's not what happens. See, now he brings us back to the reality immediately. He says, but that's not what has happened. What has happened? Kabir jeh marg pandit gaye pache pari bahir. Now please take a note that he is not critique anything. Pandit does not mean that he is criticizing the Brahman. Actually, the word he uses is not Brahman. Actually, it will come. He's used the word Brahman. He doesn't call them Brahman. Brahman. The one whose man has gotten into Brahman is Brahman. He says, that one I am willing to be the disciple of. But the one who, the word Pandit here is using is the one, that preacher, that intellectual who has created this, who's feeding the mind with all these falsehoods. And the mind willingly takes that. And that's a very, very common thing, and I hear that all the time. Don't Don't you think it is so difficult to get up early in the morning? So, what's wrong with it if I get up at 10 o'clock? No, this modify everything. We keep on bringing the discipline to our level rather than raising ourselves to that discipline level. So keep on modifying. Can I not have to do this? Yeah, of course you can. Because if you, and the funny thing is that if you say no, they'll stop you and they'll go somebody else who says yes. They'll continue asking that question till they find someone who says that's okay. And there's always somebody who will say that. Because I remember somebody, before he asked me that question, he said, I have asked this question to about 100 people, nobody has answered me yet. And I stopped him and said, why don't you put my name as 101 and don't ask the question? Because you are not going to get the answer. Just put my name as 101. Please don't ask the question, just stop. Because you are looking for someone who will say what you want to hear. The answer is not the objective. The agreement is. That agreement which suits me, my paradigm. And Kabir says, that's what has happened. Kabir jeh marg pandit gaya pache pari bahir. Bahir means heal. The whole world is following those who are following those ritualistic aspects of life. But he says that's not where this is. He says, ek avghat ghati. Avghat. Avghat is going upward. Very difficult. This journey is very difficult. Why? Isn't that crazy? I mean, on the path of destruction, somebody should find difficulty. Why somebody finds difficulty in the path of God? Isn't that paradoxical? It should be difficult for me to go murder somebody. And this is becoming so easy. Every third day we hear a shooting. Little children taking their anger out on the society. But you tell the same one to sit down and meditate, that's very difficult. He says this is avghat ghati. Very difficult fact. Ek avghat ghati Ram ki tay chad rahe ho Kabir. So watch the word he uses, charana. Not uttarna, not going down. He says that if you are on the outer dimension, you are going downward. And that's the easy thing, everybody wants to follow that path. But going on the path of meditative state is going upward, going against the gravity. It's not an easy thing to do. Because it's not an easy thing to do, actually, you may have heard this, the quotation, Jo sukh chajude chubare o baf na bukhare. Now, chaju, the term it became popular because chaju was a meditator. And he used to run free kitchen. Everybody will be given free food. No questions asked. And what's the work? He says for 8 hours you will have to sit and meditate. Then after 8 hours, I'll feed you again. I will sit down again for 8 hours. And every time you feel hungry, food is not a problem. And you don't need to do any other work also. Just sit down and meditate. The people used to have it. That's not the problem. You want to try yourself? Forget about meditating. Just sit for an hour, do nothing. Just sit. And see what happens. Not sleep. Don't drug yourself. Just sit. Don't sing. Don't read. Don't watch TV. Don't listen to the radio. Just sit. See what happens. That's why he's saying this. Why is it that the highest punishment to the mind-body system is a solitary confinement? Isn't it? To take a human and put them into a cell, feed them, clothe them, take care of them, but don't let them see anything else. That is in society considered punishment. And a saint, a Bhagat, yearns for that freedom. Don't bother, just let me be in that state of blissfulness. That's why he's calling it a avaghat ghati. Very difficult. But once you get into that stage, once you taste that, and actually you can see those who have gotten used to being by themselves, for them the outside becomes very noisy now. It becomes painful. That's a good crowd. But that's not yet, because these are both extremes now. Then the saint can stay in the crowd and still be. Because the being alone does not mean being lonely, and being lonely does not mean being alone. You can be very lonely amongst crowds of people surrounding you. And you can be very alone, and the noise inside can be driving you crazy. And that's why it is difficult. Be with yourself, quieting the mind down. He says, why don't the people do this? Here is the secret why they don't do it. He says, Kabir, दुनिया के दोखे मुआ चालत कुल की कान. This is what the problem is. Everybody wants to maintain that tradition. My name, my father's name, my parents' name, my brother's name, my village name, my country's name. That has become important. Kul ki kaan. Jaapdai Himan. Everybody क्या कर रहा है? दुनिया के धोखे हुआ. He says the human is actually committing a suicide, a spiritual suicide. Why? Chalat kul ki kaan. Follow the tradition. Rasma rivajan pura karo. Dunya ki कहे. If I did that, what would the world say? Your son is not very successful. Your daughter is not very successful. You are not very successful. That's what he said. So I have to be successful by the definition of the word. And what's the definition of the word? More. Bigger, better. So much so, we made it into such a worshipable characteristic. In Hindu mythology, Ram is called Maryada Purushottam. Isn't it? Why? Because he followed the tradition. He maintained the tradition. He became a worshipping deity, even though he himself never said that I am somebody who needs to be worshipped. I'm just a Maryada Purushottam. I'm a king who is maintaining that tradition. That's all he did. All his life. Whole story of Ramayana is that he maintained that tradition. And Kabir says, the whole of the world is committing suicide in that desire to maintain that tradition. But he asked a very poignant question. He says, तब कुल किसका लाज सी जबले धरे मसान. Says, when the body drops, now where is the tradition now? That tradition is not going to be modified. the body is going to drop. The soul is going to fly away. You're going to end up masana. You're going to end up definitely in the morgue. So now what's the tradition? What will happen to the tradition then? If we were to ever ask that question to ourselves, that I am doing this because my father may not be shamed by this, then would my father be following me where I am going to go at the end? If I was to ask that question, I would not worry about that. Actually, in one of his hymns, Kabir says that when he got on the path, हमरे कुल कौने राम कयो जब ते माला नई पूते तब ते सुख न भयो. He saying that's what his mother and wife and everybody is talking about. हमरे कुल कौने राम कयो. Jat Jalaha, the one, he's a weaver. And he says he's sitting down and he's meditating all day and night. Says, Jab se mala lai dupute, tab te sukh na bhe. What is that sukh? For them, the sukh was, the child is growing up. So, some wealth should come so that all this poverty is washed away. But that's not what Kabir did. He did not reduce the poverty of the parents. They remained poor. Now, if he had gone on that path, कि ज़माना की कहेगा, what दुनिया की कहेगी, world की कहेगा, then he should not have done all that. He should have followed the tradition of his parents. And he says that's what the whole world is doing. दुनिया के धोखे मुआ चालत कुल की कान तब कुल किसका लाज सी जब लय धरे मसान. See, what are you going to do with that tradition when your body itself is traveling towards the morgue? Who would be maintaining that tradition then? Think about that. Meditate on that thought. And he says, Kabir, dube gore bapre bahalogan ki kaan. This you are so much worried about the world. Dube go. Bapre. Bapre means badkismat. The one who is absolutely is so cussed now that cannot see through it. That what he is thinking that he's doing the right thing by maintaining that tradition, he says, no, you are actually committing a very slow suicide. Dube gore bapure. You are destroying this life. You will realize it later on. He's alerting the mind and say, Bahalogan ki kaan. So you are worried about the people too much. What should you do? He says, watch. Parosi ke jo hua tu apne bhi jaan. So don't you think for a moment that the messenger of death is not going to come to your home. It comes to everybody's home. Parosi, your neighbor. Parosi ke jo hua. Whatever is happening to next door, someday it's going to happen to you as well. And that's a very amazing phenomenon that we hear so much through all of the media, all of the communication of today, how much death and destruction is around us. Yeah, that's one message that just goes right by us. Right? Mind boggling. Kabir, Bhali, Madhukari, Nana Vidko Naj. Now look at how he's turning the logic around. He's giving a beautiful example. He says, Bhali Madhukari. Madhukari word, it has come earlier also. It means the food that you bring home by begging. Be careful. Bhali Badukari, Nana Vidako Naj. Naj, Anaj, food. Nana with too many varieties. See, because when a beggar goes from door to door to door, I mean, we don't see that here, but in that part of the world, this is a very common thing that in the morning, in the evening, normally, not only just the beggars, but even the saints, so-called those fakir, or those people who have their temples and gurdwara in the villages, they will go every evening, morning, and they will go bring the food from the village. Now they normally have only one pot. So somebody can throw in the rice there, somebody can throw in the bread there, somebody can throw the vegetables there, anything that somebody has made. And you can say, put the saltines here and the sweets here and yogurt here. You can't say that. Everything goes in the same pot. And they got mixed. She says, isn't that interesting? Kabir Bhali Madhukri says, isn't that great? To bring in the food and with all that variety. Yeah. Some of the people, translators who did that, they basically took this shloka and critiqued him that he is encouraging the people to become better. Actually, he is creating a style. Watch where he is taking this thought. He says, Dawa kahu ko nahi bada desh badra. Say, for the better. The whole world is his kingdom. He sleeps in the open. So, isn't he the king of kings? He owns the whole world. Because he can go into on the side of the beach and just lie down there and that's enough. What is he saying? He's saying that when you go out the outer world and create this wealth, whether you wanted it or not, the side effect is that ego has come up. I did it. I am a self-made person. I earned this. I created this wealth through my own effort and energy. Kabir says, look at what is happening. Whether you like it or not, the ego came back. The one you are basically critiquing, that he's a beggar and he's not sustaining himself, he is depending on somebody else. Dawa kahu ko nahi. He says, he has no ego. Yet, he owns everything. When you, and the example that I used to like very much is that when you have the hand as open, the whole of the sky is in it. Start closing the hand, and the sky and the air starts disappearing. More boundary you draw around, more closed you become, more smaller you become, more egoistic you become. Further away, you start going from the mysticism, from the meditative states. And he says, when he says Bhali Madhukri, he's not saying go back. He's basically saying that the simple, minimal requirement met. And there is the secret. Because the bhiksha, the one that you are back, is only going to be enough for that evening, for that day, for that moment. So that's what he's pointing out. That when you are creating just enough for the need, there is a side benefit of it automatically that comes. Ego will not come. Because the ego is something how much I have. When there's nothing to have the ego about, the pride about, you would not be creating that. So you cut the root. दावा काहू को नहीं बड़ा देश बड़ राज. The whole thing is of the whole world. And that's what the saint. Saint doesn't say this is only mine. Saint is like a sun, like a moon. Would you say sun is the American sun or the Indian sun? Sun is sun. Which nationality will you give to the sun? Which religion would you give it to? Bada Desh Badra. The whole world, the whole universe, whole creation. Because the saint becomes a part of the creation. Kabir, दावे दाजन होत है निर्दावे रहे निसन. Dawa, when you own something, he says what happens? Dajan. Dajan means to burn. Fire. दाग दिया जाना. Fire दिन. कबीर दावे दाजन होत है निर्दावे रहे निसंक. Nisank means no worry, without any concerns, any worries about. Because as we were talking about the other day, the mind will either survive in the memories of the past or the worries of the future. You drop both of them, the mind will start quieting down. Stop worrying about the future. Stop living in the memory of the past. Start becoming alert. Start getting closer to the present, that moment. Start coming closer to the moment, and you will see the mind will start becoming quiet and peaceful. And he says, when Kabir दावे दाजन होता है निर्दावे रहे निसंग. If you don't have the claim, dawa means the claim, and nirdawa, no claim. If you have the claim on something, this is, you have created the source for the worry. Isn't it? कार खरीदे है और मॉर्गेज का फिक्र होना ही है. Isn't it? Bigger the home, bigger the mortgage, bigger the worry. But if you have no home, then there's no worry. Does that mean we should go or become all homeless? Right? He's not saying go sit on the road. Again, he keeps bringing back to the one central thought. Do you understand the difference between the need and the want? Need and the want. Separate out the need and the want. If you go after the want, you say you have created a root for problem. You stay focused on just the need, life is very simple. दावे दाजन होत है निर्दावे रहे निसंग. जो जन निर्दावे रहे सो गने इंद्र सो रंग. This is the one who really understands this, that there is nothing, no claim to be created, nothing to be claimed. Those who have understood that, for them, Indra, the kingdom of that heaven, he's talking of that God, mythical God. See, Rang, उसको grief समझा. He thinks that for him, that guy has nothing, even though he calls himself king. He is small, insignificant, as compared to the one who has understood the secret of this claim. Kabir is actually pointing out to us that nirdava, that claim. The one who is claimless, for him, even the kingdom of the world would be absolutely meaningless. Last sloka for the evening. Kabir pal samoha sarvar bhara pee na sake koi neer bhad badate payo tu bhar bhar piyo Kabir. And this is what when last week he said ek achambhav dekhiyo, today he is ending the talk by saying pal samoha. This is mind-boggling that the Creator should be all around, inside and outside, everywhere. Nothing but that energy. But people don't see it. People, and we used to, remember that song? Main diya fir bima pyasi, he diye gehra baat darasi. How can you stay thirsty living near the water? See, that's what is happening to the world. The Creator is all around. Kabir Pal Samuha Sarvar Bhara. Sarvar means Samandar. Samuha, the whole of it. He said there is no exception here. There is no vacuum. There is not a spot where that Creator is not. But what is happening? Say, pee na sake koi nahi. Yeah, everybody is completely thirsty. Why is that happening? And then he says, Bhag bade tain payo. He says, you are blessed, a Kabir. You have understood that secret. To Bhar piyo Kabir. He says, I don't need to go anywhere to another saint, another mystic and say, give me the secret. Where's God? Tell me where it is. It's all around. When somebody says, I was having a conversation with one of the young men that the Sikhism does not believe in miracles. Actually, the whole of the history is filled with that. So one of the young men asked, then how do you know that your guru was a guru if he didn't do any miracle? And I asked him a question. I said, when a flower blooms, Bhag bade tain payo. You are the blessed one. You have understood. He's not calling himself. Again, that will be an egoistic statement. He says, those who have understood this secret, that the Creator is all around, how can you forget? How can you go away? How can you live without? You cannot be without the blessing. When you say, so one is the chosen one, I am not the chosen one, I am not the blessed one. If you are not the blessed one, you wouldn't survive for a moment. What a gift. How big a grace do you want? Grace is all the time with you. And he says, to bhar bhar piyo. He says, those who have understood, rather than staying thirsty of that bliss, make use of it. Take full advantage of that. Get onto that moment, that path, so that you can also become the partner in that business where Kabir har hira jan chahori lake mande har. So may he give us the energy, the desires and the initiative to get to those way of life so that the purpose of life is fulfilled.